indeed. And we need to also be aware that the general population does not pride themselves on also being prejudiced against the Islamic community. As I said, it's a very small, but they're small numbers there. They're affecting and they're louder by voice than those that actually are with reason and believe that the Islamic community is a part of the fabric of Australian society. Now, the ICV is working closely with all the authorities on many levels, whether it's federal, state, councils. We're working with our member societies. We are working with different stakeholders such as the police and different other security agencies to address the concerns of the Islamic community. We understand that there are brothers and sisters that have been abused, they have been attacked, whether it's verbal or physical, by a certain, as we say, element of the community that are ignorant and don't represent the mainstream Australian community. So the way we've been tackling this is that we're telling everybody to keep calm, to keep the peace, and to be and uphold their Islamic values. The Rasul ﷺ was attacked from the time of the revelation of this religion until he left Medina. They were persecuted, they were attacked, they were abused. They even called him Majnoon. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who was a mercy to mankind and a mercy to the universe. He was kind to the animals, to his neighbors, to his kinship, even though they actually attacked him and abused him. We are to uphold the values of Islam, of peace, of calm, and uphold the values that we are a part of the fabric of the society, that we all belong here, and that we actually are also benefiting of the calm of society, and we are part and parcel of the whole ship that we're on. We're all part and parcel. So what we're saying to the brothers and sisters is that if you do get abused on the roads or at work, that you are to deflect those concerns and report those, whether it's at work, to report it to high authorities. Now we're actually at the ICV, you can report that to the ICV. We are actually linked to an Islamophobia register, and we have counsellors at the ICV that will actually address these particular issues with you. It's very important that we report these issues because we are actually collecting the database, and we are reporting this back to the authorities, and we are also addressing these concerns with different stakeholders such as state government and federal government. We've been talking to politicians, we have been speaking to people in power to say that the tone has to be changed and that the Muslims are a fabric of this society. There are other issues also that have come to concern that our youth feel also marginalized. There's this issue about radicalization, that our youth are people that bring disharmony to this society, and that they're rebelling against the status quo of this society. I was mentioning last night in the talk that the Rasul ﷺ ordered the companions to leave Mecca and go to the Habasha, where there was a just king and ruler who was a non-Muslim. He was a Christian. If the Rasul ﷺ believed that we would not fit into a society other than an Islamic society, he would not have sent the companions to live in another society and be builders of that society. However, we believe that the values of the Quran, the values of the Sunnah, and our qiyam and our akhlaq and our aqidah is one that is beneficial to humanity and mankind and to all living creatures. The Rasul ﷺ, Jibreel alayhi salam, came and visited him on numerous occasions, ordering him and reminding him of the rights of his neighbor, to the point that the Rasul ﷺ thought that the neighbor was actually entitled to a part of his inheritance. So if we apply who is our neighbors are actually 7 doors on your right, 7 doors on your left, 7 doors in front of you, 7 doors behind you. So what does it mean? It's your community. SubhanAllah. So that means we live in a brotherhood that your next door neighbor, Muslim or non-Muslim, you are to protect and guard his affairs and look after his affairs same as yours, because you live and reside in the same boat. Okay? So talking about the children, about our youth, there has been reported cases of youth actually holding radical views. However, in the mainstream, our imams, our mosques are actually upholding the values of moderation, one of calm. They are upholding the values of that we are Australian Muslims, that we need to safeguard the society that we live in, and that we are to look after our neighbors, our women, our elderly, our children, and that we are part and parcel of the society that wants to live in harmony and enjoy the freedoms that we as human beings have the right to. So I want to just reaffirm that we're all messengers at work and in our society, that we should reflect those values out there in the mainstream, talk to your neighbors, remove away the prejudices that might be there. There's an element of fear that's been put into the community. It's a very important element to remind others that Muslims have been in Australia for over 100 years. So if we were, as we have been reminded of through the media, that if we were violent and non-conformant, that means we should have had violence from over 100 years. Why is it suddenly now that Muslims are such a threat to our society? But we're not. We are. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if we go by his example and by his seerah, we'll find that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam deflected injury and harm to himself and to others when he was afflicted with pain. We need to uphold that and push away and communicate with the community, telling that we're a part of this. We don't need to be apologetic, nor do we need to reaffirm. We just need to be normal citizens and just reconfirm and reaffirm that we're a part of the fabric, and that we want to enjoy peace and harmony with the rest of the community. Coming back to our youth, I understand that what is happening out there is that there has been what we call a grouping of children who feel marginalized. It's important that your role as parents, mothers and fathers, and leaders of the community, that you make sure that our children don't feel marginalized even in the mosques, that they feel they're a part of the establishment, that they feel they're a part of the community, that they feel that they have a imperative and an important role in the role of their immediate community and the community at large. If they feel that they can't find employment, make sure that you address these issues, because unfortunately what we've found that it's unemployment, poverty, financial problems, feeling marginalized, feeling lonely, is allowing for those out there that want to radicalize the youth are using this opportunity to do that by those innocent bystanders getting caught up in these affairs. Barakallah feekum, brothers and sisters, for the opportunity to talk today. The ICV is there to listen to your concerns, your issues. It's important that we voice them. You are to report. If your neighbor is threatening you, don't go and take the law into your own hands. Speak to the police in the area. Contact the ICV and speak to our counsellors. We have counsellors who are trained, whether it's in violence or whether it's in any other issues. It's very important that you speak to our counsellors, and they will point you in the right direction. It's important to report these issues, and for us to then take them up with the authorities. Because if we stay silent, then they're going to think that no, it's not filtering through. But in fact, those voices that have been heard through the media, they're filtering through to the grassroots, and people are starting to believe. We have a saying that says that if you say a lie yourself, if you actually create a lie and you say it more than twice, you start to believe it yourself. And unfortunately now, because this has been repeated out there through the media, that Muslims are non-conformant, non-compliant, and they are radical, and they want to bring danger and harm to the community, that people are starting to believe this, even though they know their next door neighbor is a Muslim and they've been living with them for many years, and that we're actually peacekeepers in the community, and that we benefit the community on many fronts. We're hard workers, as any other Australian. We're builders of the society. It's very important that we also voice the concerns, that we don't stand for being bullied, nor do we stand for those voices that are loud out there that actually are jeopardizing the safety and the harmony of this community. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallah fikum. And may Allah protect you and your families, and guide you and guide us, inshallah, that we leave this dunya with Allah being pleased with us. Barakallah li wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa astaghfirullah al-Azim.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Nazeh, for the informative sessions about common issues facing our Islamic community and how ICV can help. Maybe if there is any particular questions that needs to be asked, I think this is a really valuable opportunity for us, especially for sisters probably have some, some concern, especially whenever in the public space and getting this unfortunate situation, get harassed or anything. Maybe if there is any that sort of situations that could be shared here, and maybe then Brother Nazir can help us how to basically, behave in that kind of situations. So if there is any questions from the sisters. Or maybe from the brothers, maybe if wants to know more about, I assume, let's say now we know this happening, and what is the best way, and then how, in terms of community, how we can also synergy with the ICV to tackle these issues. If if there is any other questions or concerns that could be maybe shared in this forum, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you realize, the ICV is the peak body representing the member societies of mosques, musalla, and small prayer rooms, even universities. So we're a member society. We don't have any authoritative power. All we do is we represent your rights. We try to communicate with you to understand what are your concerns, and we address those concerns, and we tableize those concerns, and then we take them to the stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders are many. For example, we're always in communication with the Australian Federal Police. We're always in communication with the Victorian Police, VicPol. We're also in conferences with the state government and the federal government on many levels, and we're addressing these issues continuously. Now, we have been reassured by authorities that they want these concerns to be addressed and to be brought to our attention so they can better deal and strategize through their own channels. There are programs out there that the government is actually embedding through the different communities to make sure that radicalization is not an issue, to take out fear of the community, and to bring to justice those that are actually also threatening the community, okay, that are bringing threat to the community, that this is also strategized through their policies and their special units and target forces to make sure that the concerns of the community also is brought to the attention of the government. So it's embedded through their policies. And I'll give you an example. Let's say tomorrow that we have an alert that's been bought because someone's attacked a Muslim, that now the government is aware how to strategize and how to deal with that situation. But if we're going to stay silent and don't address these issues and bring it to their attention, then it might be alien to them as to how to address these issues. We're bringing it to the attention of the authorities that this is a real concern, and these incidences are actually occurring, and that they need to strategize how to best deal with these. How do you want, let me ask you on the rhetorical, what expectations do you have to better handle these situations, in your opinion, as community members? Who are the stakeholders? Well, the stakeholders are the authorities, from Vic Police to the Australian Federal Police to the state government to the federal government. They're all stakeholders. So how do you see you would like resolution of these issues occur? And how do you feel that needs to occur? Yes. We actually are in partnership with a group that's actually called, if you've heard of them, the Muslim Legal Network. They actually are young professional Muslims who are lawyers and professionals who work in their field, who are actually affiliated with us. So we have a legal team. We also have other external lawyers that we actually all are in continuous consultations with. So we actually have a structure and a network that we can deal with. I think what needs to really happen here is that maybe your concerns at grassroots levels needs to be brought to us. It's a two-way street. We need to alert you what we're doing on our front, because a lot of people think that the ICV is silent on many issues, but we're not, because these issues are brought to our attention on a continuous fashion. And we are then also reciprocating that to the stakeholders, making sure that they know that we also have concerns. So we're not actually dormant on it, but we are actually alerting on both fronts that we are working with the community, and we're also communicating these concerns to the authorities. Now, in protecting, this is an issue. Do you feel that we are threatened physically, or are we threatened as a community? What is the consensus there? When we talk about threat, what can you define the threat? Physically. Right. Yes. 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 If you actually, I refer you to the website of the ICV. We, at any incident that occurs, we actually release press releases. So I urge you all to have a look at the press. We are concerned if you think that our press releases are not hitting the target. We want the community to notify us. We're not. We always listen. We have a tentative ear to your concerns. Then we communicate these with the stakeholders. So it's not only that we're just putting the press release out there on the website, but we're also releasing those press releases to the stakeholders, alerting them of what our position is. And then we are also having face-to-face meetings with all our stakeholders. So a lot of the community members think that we are silent, but we are not silent. We are working actively on these matters because they are a concern and they're being brought to our attention on a daily basis. Whether it's to the individual board members or whether it's a unified ICV, we're getting these concerns on a daily basis and we're communicating back. Now, you're probably talking about a unified voice which is a global one, which is a national one. This is another topic for another day, really, because we have, as you well know, we have peak bodies, we have AFIC, we have what we call Islamic councils of each state. And so what we try to do is that last year, the Prime Minister came and visited the ICV. That was the first visit ever, if you're aware of it. Mr. Malcolm Turnbull came and visited the ICV, and it was a very well accepted visit. And we communicated, and he sat with our youth and successful boys and girls who were actually community leaders, and he said and had a dialogue with them, and the board facilitated that, and we sat down and had a meeting with him one-on-one, and then we had the youth address their concerns with the PM, and we also listened to the PM about what his concerns were also on the other front, that also their concern is the Islamic community integrating into the Australian mainstream. So there's also concerns on both fronts. So to have that unified voice, brother, we need to work. There's a lot of work to be done, but rest assured there are a lot of brothers and sisters that are working behind the scenes. Okay, but it's about being vocal. Look, unfortunately, as I said, there are those, not even a 1%. Those 1% are actually their voices louder because they're being given an opportunity to be heard. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not working. Okay, and I'm not just sitting there defending the ICV, but I'm telling you to really investigate what I'm saying to you and find out what's happening behind the traps. We have people that are not even part of the ICV and not even Muslims. They're actually lobbying for us. We have people that are very well spoken that are affiliates of the ICV. They're going and lobbying everywhere for us, saying that the Islamic community is a part of this society, Australian society, and these people are peacekeeping citizens of Australia. So I take on board your concerns, and they're very important, but I think it's another topic we can probably address, and another issue is about leadership, and leadership is a very big issue in our community, and we're addressing this in our ranks. It's about who really represents the community. You have to remember that, alhamdulillah, we're fortunate the Islamic community is made of many nations and tribes and many languages, and we also have generational issues. We have now the youth who were born here, okay? Were born and never been to their ancestral land, okay? And then we have a generation that were born but lived a part of their life in their ancestral land, okay? And then you have the first generation that came here, they were migrants. So we have 3-4 different generations all intermingling, and everyone says, I haven't been represented. So we need to there needs to be a chat. It's a very healthy chat to have and understand who needs to lead, and how do we actually help our youth become future leaders of the community. But it's through nurturing. It's all working together. Mums and dads, your community here, your own society here needs to also see and integrate and see who has actually skills. Who do you think has leadership skills? And nurturing them. And then pushing them to the forefront. Becoming involved, for example, like peak bodies like the ICV, even on a voluntary basis. We have a big number. I forget the number now. The brothers and sisters might abuse me. I should remember the number. We have over thousands of volunteers who actually volunteer on many fronts, whether it's on Office of Women, whether it's with the youth, whether it's with refugee issues. We have a lot of issues, as you well know, as a community, and we have volunteers on every front. Okay, so it's important that we nurture our youth to come forward and become future leaders of the community. But as you well know, there is topical issues with regards to, do we have one unified voice in the community? I think there's many, which is good. Okay, there's many. Alhamdulillah, at least there's no vacuum. Okay, there are people that are working everywhere in Sydney. Mashallah, the community in Sydney also, they're very strong. They're also talking. But the ICV is working hand in hand with all the Board of Imams. Board of Imams are also very also active on this front. So I think we just need to probably unify our efforts and inshallah move forward. Barakallah fiqh on that very, very well question.
Assalamualaikum, brother, and the rest of the community. Probably I understood last night we have raised this issue, like discussion about what we need to do when being abused on public, especially among the sisters. So probably you can share with the rest because not everyone was there last night. And number two, this doesn't probably not have relation with the ICV, but I need your opinion. Like, for example, in the workplace or somewhere that someone talking about terrorism or something, talking about Islamic, how we respond to that. I feel guilty if I feel quiet but I don't want to say something that's gonna sounds really aggressive. So how we react if we heard someone, like especially in the workplace or in the community, that they talk about the Islamic value or like talking about like whatever on the media. So we know how to be like. That's pretty much it.
Barakallah for you, sister. Yes, it is a concern. I think we're all challenged with that. It's a challenge whether it's at work, whether it's in our meetings in general. But at the end of the day, I think we need to use what we call hikmah. We need to use wisdom. We need to use sabr. And we need to use what we call our own experiences to make sure at that situation what is the best way to handle these issues. We need to remember that every action has a reaction, but we need to make sure that our reaction is appropriate, one that actually upholds. And think about this, that how would the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he's our greatest example, how would he have reacted in that situation? Sometimes not giving a response might be the best response. Now some people say, what do you mean? I need to defend my religion. But you have to remember who you're dealing with. Ignorance is the biggest of evils. It's the biggest of evils. Ignorance is our worst enemy. And if we don't know that at the situation that we're dealing with and who we're dealing with, that is then how you actually deal with the situation. If you're being attacked at a shopping center, you walk away, unless you need to defend yourself because you're in harm's way. But you need to then report it to the authorities. Every situation you need to deal with it differently. With regards to the ladies that are being attacked or spat on, okay, just walk away from the situation. Now, we're not saying being cowards, but sometimes you might be at the receiving end that you actually react emotionally. And we're very emotional, by the way. And I know we've got every right to be emotional, but we need to use, I think, our logic. Because bystanders who will see you react, that they might understand that you are actually the instigator, not the receiver. You will be the one who was at right, then you will become at fault. Because you know why? Because people not understand that you were attacked. And this has happened again and again. Take it from your own children at school. Someone bullies them, and just because they react, now they pull up the child and say, you know what? You're at fault because you shouldn't have hit him back. Well, that's correct, because we don't advocate violence. So what I'm saying is that you are to walk away and report the incidences. The only situation that you have is that you need to protect yourself. Protect yourself just to bring away harm from you, and then walk away from the situation. Call the authorities immediately, because they've been alerted. They all are aware these situations are occurring everywhere. So it's very important that you report them. Don't be scared to report. And if you don't want to report it, as I said, to the ICV. There are counsellors there that will help you, and that will actually defend your rights. And then we will refer it to the legal team that we have. So it's very important that we don't go silent, sisters. Don't be scared. All I'm saying is that Allah is with us, and that you are to say, I'm Australian, and I'm a Muslim, I'm proud to be a Muslim, and you are to say that I have rights like everybody else. I have my human rights, okay? And you have your civil rights, okay, to uphold. Everyone has a right to exist in this society, okay? So that's very important. The other thing with regards to your question was, sorry, your other question about work, was it, or? Public? Mm. Yes. Look, yeah, look, sister, with regards to that, we can't, and I'm not being defeatist here, we can't educate everybody. Now, everyone comes from a different socioeconomic class, different intellect, different backgrounds, different mindsets, different experiences, okay? So we can't address every single situation, but you need to use hikmah. And maybe don't answer at the time, but there might be another opportunity later. It's happened to me, you know. I was in a business meeting and they didn't realize that I was a Muslim. And they went off about Islam and they spoke everything. Everything came out in the open, all their prejudices. But I stayed calm. I listened. Okay? Now you're probably saying, was I a coward? No, because at the end of the session, they found that I was silent. I was the only person that didn't speak. And they said, oh, where are you from? I said, oh, yeah, I'm a Muslim. I said, oh, we apologize. I'm so sorry. We've been talking for half an hour. We've been talking everything bad about your religion. The fact that I didn't react earned their respect. And they said, I'm sorry. Can you tell us more? We don't know much about your religion. Even though after half an hour, and I don't want to mention, they were speaking very ill of our religion. You can just imagine. It doesn't mean that I was a coward, no, because I knew I was going to be given a greater opportunity to speak once they've vented. It's called venting, okay? And people also, something's called also the crowd syndrome, okay? Now what happens when we're in a crowd? When we're in a crowd, we'll sit down and we'll bully one boy coming through. You know why? And we know it's wrong, but because we're doing it in a crowd, we feel good about it. But we all know that's wrong, okay? So then later you realize yourself that what you did at this crowd syndrome, okay, was wrong, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people are using this now because they feel good that they're all addressing the same issue. Muslims are bad and the same rhetoric, and they all agree with each other. But deep down, if you really speak individually with these different people and say, look, my neighbor was Muslim, you know, and it's like that news reporter on one of the channels, she got up and started saying that Muslims are all bad, and we made her apologize. You know, the Islamic community was up in raw, okay, and she had to refrain and apologize, and she said, no, Islam is a peaceful religion, and Muslims are good people, right? So what I'm saying is sometimes refraining and holding our nerves and our emotions is our greatest tool. And sometimes it might just take one word, because your actions will speak louder. It's not our words sometimes that get heard, it's the actions that get seen. If you react, I'll say, I told you, Muslims are abusive. Look at them. Yeah, they react. Look, you know, she's going to throw something at us in a minute, right? Or he will. But in fact, say, look, have you read about Islam? You'll address, I'm not going to give you solutions to every event. Look, can I give you a book to read? What have you been reading? And people will come around as long as they see that we're calm. This is now what we call boiling point, where people are just venting their concerns because of what they see reported through TV and media, right? But we need to also stay calm. I always call for calm wherever I attend, and say that Muslims are actually peacemakers. We're not violent people. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had things thrown him. Yes, we all know that. He was abused. He was threatened. But he was calm. So I'm not sure whether that addresses your unless you have another concern, I'm not sure whether that addresses, you think that's a solution to you? Do you think it's a practical solution, or?
Responded by saying, no, they're also attacking the Muslims. But the media said they're attacking the Christian part of the that's not right.
Yes.
The data shows I don't know whether I was.
Yeah. Look, the other day when there was attacks in Egypt, if you remember this, against the churches, the ICV, it's very important to read, and I think we as Muslims, and I'll even, as they say, I'll speak about myself before I speak about others, we also lack some knowledge in our seerah. We lack. And sometimes we don't have all the Islamic knowledge to protect this great religion. So we need to read or go back to our scholars or our learned people. You know, there was, the ICV had put up a press release on our website about that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had a covenant. Correct? A covenant that was done with the Christians. Okay, in Sinai. Yes? We know about that covenant? If you don't know about the covenant, read about it. Right? So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was actually a peacemaker. Okay? And again, as I said earlier on, when the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to them, go to a just ruler in the Habasha, he was a Christian. Correct? So if Islam didn't highly regard other religions to be safeguarded, if we really think about it, in Medina, other religions were allowed to practice their own religions in harmony and in safety, weren't they? We had Jewish, we had Christians that lived in Medina, all under the rule of Islam, under the rule of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So there are many examples through history, but we need to become aware if we are to defend and defend this with history and facts. So it's very important that we become knowledgeable and say there is many. Islam does not accept. There's a story of my brother actually visited he visited Jerusalem when he went, and on a medical tour, and he found that even until now that they were going to build a mosque, and next door neighbor was actually a church. Right? There was a church. They were given the opportunity to take over the church, but Umar radiallahu anhu, he said no. That we are to build side by side. And it's still preserved. And I believe that there's something written at the door of this church, okay, to say that this was preserved by Umar radiallahu anhu. Who knows these facts? There's a great history of facts. If we look at the covenant, when Umar radiallahu anhu actually entered into Jerusalem, what was the covenant? That all the Jewish and the Christians are to be safeguarded and they are to practice their religion with great security and harmony. They'd be safeguarded. But yet people come and abuse and say Muslims are violent. They don't respect other religions. This is very untrue. But how do we get that message out there? Is with calm and with great knowledge and wisdom, and we just give it at the right time, at the right opportunity to express. Because you have to remember, you won't be heard when people are heated. You won't be heard. You know, when people are all excited and they're saying, look, I saw it on the TV, and and they're not going to listen to you at the time. Just let them vent it out, and there will come an opportunity where either at that same session or a bit later to say, look, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, look, I respect what you said, but just read, And sometimes they don't want to listen. Maybe it might take a week or later. But you need to tackle the situation at different times, at different intervals, based on, your experience. So it's just a personal experience. We've all got personal experiences, and there's no formula, right or wrong formula. It's just that I think we probably need to take away a little bit of the element of emotion and probably just put a bit of logic. And Allah knows best. Of these member societies. Yes. In Victoria. Yeah, we have a group that's going out to schools. We have these different programs. There's network sessions. There are people that are going out and advocating Islam at schools. So there are all these different things. But as I said, you're probably not aware of them because they're probably silent. You know, they don't get a lot of media coverage. That's number one. And number two, we don't have our own media to cover what activities are occurring. So that's number two. And number three is that I think we need to bring it back to, I mean, as I said before about the two-way street, we need to bring it back to ourselves. That maybe, and we're addressing this as a board, that we need to reach out more to our member societies, and also the member societies need to reach out more to us. Because once there's a communication, we meet often, and you attend our events, because we have a lot of events, and not many of the member societies attend, like not the majority. And we have to call again and again to remind them that we have meetings. So what I'm getting at, it's very important that you also reach out to the ICV and say, when do you have a workshop about Islamophobia? When do you have a workshop about women issues? When do you have a workshop about our youth? And they'll tell you. The website's there, but because there's silence, people are silent on both fronts and probably think that there's a vacuum there. But there's a lot of work that's occurring. And as I said, look, there's a lot to be desired, okay, for a lot of people to hear about what's happening, right? But inshallah, I think with time it will occur. But your points are all valid. And these issues, and what you're talking about should be probably written, not only verbalized. Look, the ICV likes to see documented issues to be sent to us. Because, you know, we'll tableize them, we'll put them in our board meetings, and we'll address these issues. And then we'll make sure that they're followed. And then you can follow up with us after a month or two and say, look, you know, we brought this issue to you. What have you done about it? Okay, you've got every right to do that because we represent you, okay, as the peak body. And then when you come to us and we'll say, well, you know, on this particular day we met with federal police, on this day we did this, and look, there's, you know, we have documents from them in response, so you'll know. But guess what? Then it will become publicized. We'll publicize it and we'll notify everybody. But it's very important that we also know, we hear what's happening at your end, because we're addressing so many issues every day, and it's overwhelming issues. Okay, we have domestic violence as an issue, family breakdowns is an issue. We have financial issues, like for the community, we have members that are struggling financially. We've got youth issues. There's endless issues in our community, and we're a growing community. We're a young community, so our infrastructures are not there. Okay, we have homeless. We have, unfortunately, and this is a big statistic, I could be corrected on this statistic, we have 40% of women that are homeless out of that composition in Victoria that are from Muslim background. Okay? Because of divorces. Okay? So there's concerns in the community. We have in the prisons, we have prison issues. We have, and I don't want it all to be documented now through our video streaming because I want to give the bad, but we also have our youth who are in prison because they've been marginalized through whether they've been caught up in different issues. So we have societal issues. And this is normal. In what I mean by normal is that you will encounter these issues, but it's about how do you actually resolve these issues is probably the key. And how do you prevent them from occurring is probably the most important thing. How do we prevent these occurrences? How do we prevent our youth being marginalized, our women being abused? Unfortunately,